Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the FTN Network Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast for Monday, December 11th, 2023. We are reviewing Week 14 in the NFL. I am Aaron Schatz of FTNFantasy.com/DVOA. He is Mike Tanier of TheMessenger.com. Don't forget that if you are watching this live on YouTube, we are here every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can ask questions and make comments about all of this week's games. We will have previews of Monday Night Football in a little bit, and we'll count down the DVOA ratings. But first, we want to talk about the two huge games this week, and let's start by talking about the Cowboys over the Eagles. Sort of an interesting game statistically, where the Eagles averaged a yard more per play.
Yeah.
But got destroyed.
Yeah.
This was not one of those games where you look at it and you go, oh, that was like the close. We'll get to a close game. We could have gone either way in the second with the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yes.
The Cowboys had a 99% post-game win expectancy, even though the Eagles averaged a yard more per play. The Cowboys ran 22 more plays,
Okay.
had fewer penalties, and were great on third downs. They had 67% DVOA on third downs, whereas the Eagles were at 0%.
Yeah, and yards per play are great, but when you gain 20 yards and fumble at the end, not ideal. And there were a couple of Eagles fumbles were basic. I think all three of the Eagles fumbles came at the end of what would have been a productive play by the Philadelphia Eagles. And the penalty advantage and the third down advantage were kind of linked in that the Eagles had a couple of contact fouls on defense, which were not ticky-tack. They look like legitimate contact fouls that turned third and longs into first downs for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And it's interesting, in your Messenger column, you talked a little bit about the Eagles' problems with defense over the middle.
Yeah.
I don't think that was that huge in this game. I went back and looked. Prescott was only 4 for 8 over the middle. There were a couple of big gains.
Yes.
But the biggest one was to Jake Ferguson, and that gets back to the Eagles having had problems with tight ends all season.
Yes.
And then Jake Ferguson is suddenly up the seam, rumbling for 27 yards.
Yeah, he's rumbling. I kind of have to blue sky it when I'm writing quickly on Sunday night. You put CeeDee Lamb, whether it's in the slot, whether it's trips, and there's one guy outside of him and another guy in the slot, but he's in the middle of the trips. Anytime you take the receiver and put him outside of the structure of Slay and Bradbury, whatever he's running, that's where this individual is going to wind up being covered by rookie Sidney Brown or rookie Kelly Wingo or what's left of Bradley Roby, et cetera. And Lamb didn't have great stats at the end. The Cowboys' offense didn't look really that good in the second half. They had long field goals and they had some sacks and they had the big Jalen Carter play. They had already run up a 24-6 lead. But a lot of what they did is in the first half, they got Lamb the mismatch they wanted. They got the completion to him. Then it's 17-6. Then you get one shot over the top to Brandon Cooks, and it's 24-6. And then the game's tilted in your favor.
No, I don't think the Eagles are out of discussion. Just, obviously they've had two big losses to two teams that are better than them.
Yeah.
And weird things happen in the NFL, and sometimes you have teams out, go on a playoff run and beat teams that they lost to in the regular season. But I think that the Eagles are, like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, why does the DVOA not have the Eagles third or fourth in the NFC? And now I think we're like, the Eagles are third in the NFC. Right. I mean, the Lions are still ahead of them in DVOA for the season, but I think in weighted, the Lions are behind them. And obviously the Lions are kind of slipping in. So, but I think now we all agree the Eagles are third. Could they win it in the playoffs? Sure. But, look, 2012 Baltimore Ravens, 2007 Giants, things happen, but they're not. San Francisco is this huge, gigantic favorite, and then Dallas is second.
Right. And the idea that the Eagles can run the gauntlet of both of those teams, they're showing right now, unless there's a qualitative change along the way somewhere, they're not going to be able to run that gauntlet. Now, can the playoffs line up where they get the Lions and then they got one of those teams?
Right. What it's probably going to take for the Eagles to make it back to the Super Bowl is a situation like the Patriots had in '96, where the Jaguars upset the Broncos, and then or the 95 Cowboys didn't have to face the 49ers because the Packers upset them. That kind of thing.
Peyton Manning had a couple of those. Oh, Brady got taken out by the Ravens, and now we can move in.
Yeah.
So, something like that is now what Philly fans are rooting for, which is not where my neighbors and my friends and my timeline was, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Bills and the Chiefs. This was the anti-post-game win expectancy game of the week.
Not surprised.
Because the Chiefs had a 74% post-game win expectancy and a higher DVOA overall.
Huh.
And that doesn't even count what their DVOA would have been if the lateral play had counted. They gained 5.6 yards per play, and the Bills only gained 4.5 yards per play, but the turnovers really went in the Bills' direction. Right. Can we talk a little bit about the Kadarius Toney offsides call, because that was the right call?
Yes.
I don't know if there's a thing in the NFL, but it's you kind of mentioned it on Threads. People are like, the refs should call everything. And then they're like, don't call that ticky-tack. Like,
right.
How do you there really isn't a rule of cool, right? We don't not call penalties because the play turned out really awesome. And Toney was totally offside. It was a terribly stupid penalty.
Right.
I don't begrudge Mahomes complaining about it afterwards, or even Reed complaining, because that's what people in the NFL do. They complain afterwards about the officiating when it goes against them, and then we all move on with our lives. Like, somebody said something about, boy, this is going to be the end of Mahomes as the golden boy because he's bitching about a clearly correct call. Well, no, come on. These guys, there's a lot of adrenaline. They want to win. It's good that they want to win. So when they lose, they're upset.
Yeah, I've done 2 radio stings where they talked a lot about Mahomes and his complaints, and like the overreaction to the reaction to the overreaction. That's kind of what we do in this business right now. Yeah, I've been watching great quarterbacks work the referees, for my adult lifetime for the last 25 years. I've watched coaches do that. Like I joked, Sean Payton would be like going to the league offices right now, say, competition committee next year, offsides is legal. We can't lose games like this, and that's how we're conditioned. But as fans, we owe it to ourselves. Now, obviously, when these super blatant calls happen, and you're going to complain a little bit, these obvious mistakes, we can't do this. We can't take every game and say, well, I didn't like that call. I didn't like that call. I didn't like that call. Therefore, the NFL is rigged, and I hate this, and this is terrible, and I'll tune in next week at 1:00. I'll be sitting and watching for 7 straight hours.
Right. I mean, I'm definitely I am much more sympathetic to – I think that penalty that was called was not a penalty.
Right.
Then I am sympathetic to that penalty that was called was clearly a penalty, but they shouldn't have called it because I don't like it. Because like in the Ravens, I watched the Ravens-Ram game, and there was a defensive pass interference on Marlon Humphrey where the ball was 5 yards out of bounds.
I remember it, 3rd and long, and it was way out of bounds, right?
Way out of bounds. And my feeling was that should not have been called a penalty.
Right.
Not it was a correct penalty, but they shouldn't have called it because my numbers like the Ravens, and I wanted the Ravens to win.
Right. I want the game called clean, and it's like that didn't look like what's in the rule book, and I agree with that. Florio did this. Pro Football Talk did this last week after the Monday night win by the Bengals. There was apparently I don't even remember, a late call where there's a holding penalty against the Jaguars, and Florio's like, well, the penalty was correct, but it's a weird time to call that penalty. It's like, what are we even doing? We're just trying to talk, and we're trying to like pander to whichever fan base feels like they were hosed this week. Let's back off. We have to
I'm much more sympathetic to the complaints from Chiefs fans.
Right.
That Von Miller was offsides on 3rd and long, and that they should have called an offsides penalty because sometimes they miss them, and that sucks. It sucks. Well, that's the randomness of officiating.
Or that Latavius Murray's catch, ball, roll, like that was
right.
Maybe you call that an incomplete pass. Like, okay, I can kind of see that.
But Toney was offside, man. Like he was like
by a yard.
Yeah, like by a lot.
It's like playground. He like lines up in the end zone, like, oh, you forgot about me. I'm open. Like that kind of thing.
Otherwise, I mean, I think the Bills and the Chiefs look like pretty even teams. They're both, good teams with flaws.
Right.
Both of them have a similar flaw, which is the receiving issue of the quality of the receivers, other than Stephon Diggs, is an issue.
Right.
And I don't know if Rashee Rice has really separated himself at this point. You might say other than Rashee Rice. I don't know.
No.
But I think both are good. And the problem is that the Bills just lost games and they may not make the playoffs. And what are you going to do?
I think the Bills are weaker than that. I think the Bills played a good first quarter and early second quarter in this game and kind of rode the flukiness for the rest of that game and rode the fumble by Rice and the Tony mistake, etc. Bills get the Cowboys next week, so let's see. Because whenever the Bills get one of these wins, like and then the next
they need it, and the Bills really need to win out. I mean, what I've been saying is, I did the Stadium Network's Inside the Lines betting show last week, and I liked Allen as an MVP long shot because I said if the Bills can go 4-1 or 5-0 and make the playoffs, Allen will end up with the best stats of any quarterback in the league other than Purdy.
Okay.
And there'll be a great story. It's a great story. He leads them to the playoffs down the stretch. Mm-hmm. But in order to make that story happen, they have to do that.
And you need the Cowboys.
You need to beat the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are better than you are.
The Cowboys and Dolphins wins, and they're going to be shootouts, and then you have to get out there and win those shootouts. And you're also looking. C.J. Stroud got a concussion.
The Cowboys are better than you are, and the Dolphins are better than you are.
Right. And all these other AFC teams have taken care, like the Browns, have taken care of more of their business, despite adversity.
What was your biggest surprise of the week?
Speaking of the Browns, I keep counting them out. I'm like, well, this is the combination of injuries and third-string quarterbacks where it says that's not going to happen for them. And this is the game where they're going to go up against the Jaguars, and here comes Trevor Lawrence back and everything, and they're not going to be able to play well enough to win under these circumstances. And the Browns keep manufacturing these wins. And I am surprised by that because I must have written them off 4 times. Oh, they're down to Dorian Green-Robinson. That's the end. Oh, the shoulder injury for Garrett. That's the end. And here they are. I just want to add an addendum to this. And I say this as a South Jersey resident. Can we lay off Joe Flacco a little bit?
Yeah.
Is it okay for us to celebrate the idea that this 38-year-old former Super Bowl MVP who played for a decade?
As much as we're going to celebrate the idea that Jake Browning, this guy who played well at Washington, is going to come off the bench and play like Joe Burrow. Like, I don't know when he turns back into a pumpkin, but if we're going to celebrate both Flacco and Browning, I think.
Right.
And it's kind of fun to see them playing well.
Right. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, the guy we thought was elite. Like, this is a decade-old gag. Get over it and say, this is an older veteran quarterback coming in for a team with a great defense, trying to manufacture some wins. Enjoy it or don't enjoy it, but don't be like, well, I got to keep this meme alive.
Andrew Daly points out that the Jaguars' defense has fallen off a cliff in the last 2 games.
It's weird.
And you mentioned this before the show. No Christian Kirk was massive.
Yeah, and as I was saying to you, it's like if you saw 3 interceptions by Trevor Lawrence and you know about the high ankle sprain and you said in your brain, I know what happened. He was immobile. The pass rush got to him. He had to eject the ball. There were tip passes. That's not what happened. Trevor Lawrence was running around great. They lined Trevor Lawrence up in a wildcat, a wide receiver on one play. He was moving fine, but they missed Christian Kirk. It looked like Zay Jones had at least 1 drop. There was a clear miscommunication between Jones and Lawrence that led to one of those interceptions. There was another interception. I don't remember which receiver, but the receiver looked like they ran the wrong route. And Lawrence was doing this to him after the play. And that was like sort of the quiet loss of a player in Kirk that the Jaguars needed in this game.
Matthew Carley wants to know if Jake Browning is the new Purdy. We'll get to Purdy in a second. Again, like Kyle Allen had a couple of good starts too when he was first in the NFL. Like, let's see more than 2 starts before we start talking about Jake Browning like Purdy.
Josh Dobbs got benched yesterday, guys.
Josh Dobbs, for example, yes, got benched this week for Nick Mullins. My biggest surprise of the week was the Texans-Jets game. I know no Nico Collins and no Tank Dell. Tank Dell missed the game and then Nico Collins got injured. But at the same time, like, I didn't expect Stroud to be that bad, even though the Jets have a good defense. And then the flip it, Zach Wilson had a really good game. I don't think anybody would have saw that coming. That's their second. That is only the Jets' second positive offensive game of the year.
Was the Chiefs
first
game?
One with the Chiefs?
Yeah, similar games where Wilson did well yesterday in a heavy downpour in the second half. The first half was a disaster. He was able to roll away from pressure. You keep in mind that the Texans only have one really premium pass rusher. It's Will Anderson. He's a rookie.
And he got hurt. Didn't he get hurt during the game?
I think he might have. It's the Texans. There's at least 4 injuries.
Yeah, everyone got hurt this week for the Texans.
Right. So Wilson's rolling to his right, and he's getting the ball to one of the tight ends, or he's getting the ball to Garrett Wilson. And he got a couple of touchdowns out of that, and so they were able to snowball from that. Other side of the ball, 10 official passes defensed by the Jets cornerbacks or secondary. And every one of them they are draped over that receiver when the ball arrives. They're just draped over the receiver. There was no one for CJ Stroud to throw the ball.
Yeah, we're waiting for the John Mechie breakout, boy. Waiting for Mechie. Yeah. Between Mechie and Jamison Williams, those guys do not look as good as they did in college that year of Alabama receivers, huh?
Yeah. Williams can't catch. Mechie, the injuries might have been the factor.
What was your yes, I was right moment of the week?
I just drew a complete blank on what it is.
On what you were going to do.
On what I'm going to do. You know what? I'm just going to stop it right here. I won the Herbert Wars. I won the Justin Herbert Wars. I have triumphed. You know, obviously he got hurt. I don't want the guy got hurt. He was playing poorly before he got hurt. And even with the messenger staff, I've been arguing about the Chargers. The Chargers are not good. The Chargers are not good. The Chargers are not good. We do our power rankings as a team, and the Chargers are like 12th. The Chargers.
Yeah, they are in DVOA too. They're like 13th or 14th.
How? Why? What?
Yeah, they just had close losses. Yeah.
They stink. They stink. Anyway, I kind of forget my things, so I'm going to my priors. What do you got?
Yeah, mine is that special teams do matter.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know there are a lot of advanced metrics out there that they don't even look at special teams. And absolutely, there's no question, special teams are less predictive than offense and defense. And probably the least predictive part of special teams is the part people pay the most attention to, which is field goal kicking.
Field goals, right.
But it matters. And the Rams were last in special teams DVOA this year going into this week by a lot. And they gave up a really bad punt return touchdown to lose the game.
Yeah.
So special teams are not as important as offense and defense, but they do matter. There is a little bit of predictive quality in there. And I mean, Baltimore special teams were not as good as they've been in years past so far this year, but the sort of Baltimore's special teams will eventually be good, kind of won out. And the Rams special teams were bad, kind of won out, and it cost the Rams the game.
Big win for DVOA because that's the analysis finds these advantages, and DVOA analysis, FTN's analysis finds these advantages. Also, a reminder when you look at overall roster quality, a lot of times special teams is a measure of depth to some degree.
Yeah, and the Rams, I mean, even though their defense has played better than anyone would have expected, we did say going into this year, oh, the Rams are just a bunch of low-round draft. Like, who are they? So all those guys are now playing defense, which means you need to find the next group of guys to be your special teams guys.
Yep. Meanwhile, the Ravens, that's a backup kick returner. Devin DuVernay got hurt during the game, so that brings Wallace into the game. This is a team that has veteran depth at all these positions, can play next man up, and they get that big play in overtime.
Yeah. All right. Post-game win expectancy. The only reverse post-game win expectancy game was Chiefs and Bills.
All right.
Although Atlanta and Tampa Bay was close.
That was a game for the ages.
That was like a 60%. 60% post-game win expectancy for the Bucs.
Younghoe Koo missed 2 field goals in that game, and he's kicking himself afterwards. It's like, you're the only reason the Falcons still exist. Do not kick yourself, young man. They would be 2 and whatever without you.
Yeah. All right, let's count up the DVOA top 10. This may be the last week that I do DVOA instead of doing weighted, because we're starting to get to the point where you want to look at weighted a little bit.
Yeah.
Jacksonville down 1 spot to 10.
Okay, makes sense.
Cleveland up 3 spots to 9.
I know. Yeah.
And then the top 8 is exactly the same as last week, but teams moved up and down in the ratings.
Okay, same teams.
Philadelphia 8th in about the same, but about the same.
Okay.
Detroit 7th, but they dropped from 18.5 to 12.3.
And they are trending downward.
Trending down. Buffalo 6th, stayed about the same.
Okay.
Dallas 5th, but they went up.
It's hard to crack the top at this point, especially number one is getting harder to crack, what you're about to talk about. But let's go.
Miami 4th. They went up on their bye. We'll see what happens. I mean, not a bye, but they haven't played yet. Number 3, they went up. Kansas City went up despite the loss.
That's a shocker.
Because the system has them outplaying the Bills. Both the Bills and Kansas City went up.
Fascinating. That is fascinating.
Number 2, but going down a little bit, is the Ravens.
Yeah. Defense did not look sharp for a lot of that game.
No, for a lot of that game, the defense did. Part of it is, I feel like it's, McVay just had a good scheming game where you're like, there's McVay getting Cooper Kupp totally open. Kupp totally open. Like Cooper Kupp.
Right. He goes in motion and no one follows him.
No. What the hell? And then number 1, San Francisco. So San Francisco is now at 44.7%. They are the number 5 team ever.
Oh my God. I did see you tweet that. Number 5. So they were on that list with
2007 Patriots, 91 Redskins, 85 Bears, 98 Broncos. And then the 2023 San Francisco 49ers.
Unbelievably historic list.
They are only the 7th team to ever put through 5 straight games at 50% or higher.
Wow. That's all these big wins, right?
That's these 5 big wins that they've had in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
89 49ers. 96 Packers did it 7 games in a row, including the playoffs.
Is that the Super Bowl team?
Yep. 2002 Bucks.
Okay.
2007 Patriots. The 2010 Patriots did it 8 weeks in a row. And that's why you can't count on San Francisco to absolutely win the Super Bowl, because the 2000 Patriots put up over 50% in 8 straight games and then lost in the playoffs.
Is that the Chargers year?
They lost to the Jets.
Oh, that was Darrelle Revis and Rex Ryan and the Sanchez.
Yeah, the game where Welker didn't play in the first quarter because he made a joke about the feet. The foot fetish. And then the 2020 Bills is a weird one. The 2020 Bills, because the first couple games of that streak don't look like they should be DVOA over 50%. But then the last 3 or 4 games, the 2020 Bills won pretty huge.
Right. Okay.
So,
another team you can't necessarily count on going on.
I'm writing for Quick Reads about the whole Purdy MVP thing a little bit because of, my thing about Purdy is, Garoppolo led the league in DVOA last year. And I think I found a sort of similar situation where you had the Minnesota Vikings from 97 to 2000 had 4 different quarterbacks finish in the top 5 of passing DVOA. It was a different quarterback every year. But the receivers were the same, plus you added Randy Moss in 98, and Robert Smith was there, and the offensive line was basically the same.
Kenny Green.
So the system was good, but Brad Johnson in 97, Cunningham in 98, when he lost the MVP to Terrell Davis, Jeff George in 99, and Culpepper in 2000.
Jeff George and this is DVOA, not DVOA and DR.
This is DVOA, so this is per play.
Okay. And that's fascinating, because I guess in George's case, I don't think he would have made it in DER.
I don't remember how much he played that year because Cunningham got hurt and then George came in, and then
Purdy's number 1 in DER too, right?
He is both number 1 in DYAR and number 1 in DVOA. So it's a really, I think where I am is that he has to be on the ballot, but I just can't put him number 1.
If I had a vote and the 49ers clinch home field advantage, and he leads the league in DVOA and DER, I have to give it to Brock.
You have to put him number 1?
I would have to do it, because what do we've got wins and we've got stats, and then we're doing this thing about his supporting cast. And of course, I see it, we all see it, but we have to start asking, is this quantitative or is it qualitative? Yeah. Is it just that he's got better weapons than everybody else, or is this fundamentally different at this point where this level of accomplishments does not equate to being...
Derek Klassen's argument is he's like the 5th best player on his own offense.
Whatever that, and I respect Derek's opinion, but I can get I can get Cowboys fans. Who's the best player on this team? Micah Parsons. Who's second? CD Lamb. It's like,
but the most valuable player on the Cowboys is Prescott, and he's the MVP. He's kind of the MVP leader right now because of the questions about Purdy. It's sort of Purdy and Prescott, I guess, are the leaders.
And if the Cowboys win out and they're number 1 seed, I would give it to Prescott. If the Cowboys win out And it's because Purdy had a couple of these games where it's not quite the same. Then I give it to Prescott. If the Eagles turn things around, it could still be her. It's like, I don't hate your Josh Allen argument, but that's not going to happen.
No, that narrative has to happen for Allen.
Yeah.
But it's at plus 3,300. I just think it's a good bet.
It's a 3,300. Yeah, it might be worth it. But at this point in the season, I want to get this tangible feeling here. It's like, because again, we're reaching the point. You know what? What happened yesterday? Brock Purdy threw for 744 yards and 8 touchdowns and a 93-0 loss. Well, let's talk about Lamar Jackson for MVP. Like I can't wrap my brain around it at this point. There has to be some benchmark that he can hit that demonstrates what he's done.
Let's talk about Monday Night Football. Yeah. Starting with, this is a doubleheader where one game is on ABC and one is on ESPN, and neither of them looks that great.
Right.
It's really a question of, do you want to see how good Jordan Love is these days, or do you want to watch Tyreek Hill destroy the Titans? 4-8 Titans at the 9-3 Dolphins. Dolphins minus 13.5. It's the number 2 running game, Miami, against the number 1 run defense, which is the Titans. However, the Titans defense is 32nd against deep passes.
Oh God.
They're last against outside receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They're last against number 1 receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Like, does this set up for Tyreek Hill to have a day?
Also, Jeffrey Simmons, their best run defender and best defender, is out.
Oh, is he? I didn't realize he's out. Okay. Yeah.
He is out. So their strength has been nerfed. I'm not going to call it a weakness, but it has been nerfed.
Unfortunately, Jim Steckschulte asked about quarter-by-quarter numbers, talking about the chances of Miami jumping out to a big lead and putting the Titans' hopes more onto Will Levis's plate. I don't have them in front of me, but I think those defensive numbers basically just tell you that Miami's going to jump out to a big lead. This is not a good. I mean, yeah, they have a strong run defense, but with no Jeffrey Simmons and the pass defense is so bad, I feel like the Dolphins are going to womp.
I tend to agree. By the way, real quick, in terms of just raw points, the Miami Dolphins outscore opponents 75-69 in the first quarter, 138-90 in the second quarter. The Titans tend to keep their games very grimy and close. And while we're talking about a Dolphins walk, do you know who Ty Zettner is?
No.
It is not Ty Detmer wearing a Scooby-Doo mask. Ty Zettner is the punter now for the Tennessee Titans because Ryan Stonehouse, best punters in the league,
that's right,
is out. So we're going from a punter that actually helps with the Titans, operation of how to win games. We're going to pin you at the 10-yard line and keep this game close. Replaced with a rookie in midseason. Another reason to be skeptical of that team.
My system likes Titans plus 13.5.
Ooh.
But I think that I like Dolphins minus 13.5.
I could probably tease it a little bit. If you give me 14.5, maybe I like the Titans. Right.
The other game is Packers and Giants.
Okay.
Packers are favored by 6. I will say Jordan Love this year, 6.8 yards per play when not blitzed, 5.4 yards per play when blitzed, and he's going up against Wink Martindale.
They're going to blitz.
And they're going to blitz, and their defense is better with a blitz. So it doesn't, that suggests that maybe Jordan Love doesn't have the best game in the world, and the Giants' defense is much stronger against the pass than the run. The problem is the Giants' offense. The Giants' offense is 31st in DVOA. They're 27th in ESPN's pass block win rate. They're 30th in ESPN's run block win rate. It's still Tommy DeVito.
And we're hitting the moving target a little bit with the Packers' offense. Love has been improving. Christian Watson seems like he's been getting into things.
I think Watson's out for this game, though.
He is out. I know Aaron Jones is out.
I think Watson's out too.
That's
big Romeo Dobbs game.
Big Romeo Dobbs game, and the other guys, Dontavian Wicks and is it Reed? They've been playing well. Tucker Kraft has been playing well at tight end. Don't love the spread. I don't love either spread tonight, but I feel like this should be a Packers win.
Yeah, I like the Packers minus 6 on this one, and
maybe get a double favorite parlay going and just not sweat the small stuff, double money lines. I will not be able to pull that up quickly.
No. Watson is out, says Andrew Daly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that update.
So, yeah. All right, so that does it for our Monday show for December 11th. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching. Thanks to everybody who's made some comments. The insect control guy is here, so I need to go.
Okay, do it.
So we will be back on Thursday to preview week 15. Oh my God, I can't believe we're at week 15 already. Week 15 in the NFL on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, I'm Aaron Schatz. He is Mike Tanier. Please rate and review the show. Tell your friends. Follow us on Threads. Follow the new NFL Threads hashtag. Follow us on Twitter too. What the heck? And we'll talk to you Thursday. So long, everybody.